Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your super hairy services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Now yeah, I know, it's looking slightly shaggier and bushier and wilder than usual, but that is in tribute and testament to the star of today's film review, Marco de Gregorio. Or is it Gregorio de Marco? Anyway, his Americanized name was Mark Gregory, and he was the star of 1982's fabulous Italian semi-apocalyptic exploitationer, The Bronx Warriors, also known as 1990 The Bronx Warriors. And if you saw my previous videos, an overview of all the VHS and 80s era of apocalyptic movies, and then you saw my review of The New Barbarians, you knew this one was coming along anyway. And we reviewed New Barbarians, directed and co-written by Enzo G Castellari. Well, that was the final movie he did in a sort of trilogy of post-apocalyptic movies. The first two were this one, The Bronx Warriors, and then its sequel, Escape from the Bronx. So we're going to cover that in the next day or so. But for now, we'll go on his first one. Now, to call it post-apocalyptic, this particular movie, not entirely sure you can get away with that. It does come under that genre, but mainly because it's a riff on Escape from New York. We've already said that all the predominance of the Italian exploitation pictures were influenced and massively inspired by and ripped off Mad Max 2 especially, and Escape from New York. The New Barbarians was definitely in the Mad Max 2 territory, but this is very clearly, it's Snake Plissken and Escape from New York and John Carpenter. But even then, it's got elements of it, but it does do its own thing. And folks, although when I was discussing The New Barbarians, I had far much more fun talking about it than actually watching it. I love this movie. This one's great. And it is down sort of primarily to Mark Gregory, Marco di Gregorio, and a tragic character in real life, but we'll talk more about that. And at the age of only 17, he portrays the biker anti-hero of this magnum opus of a society on the verge of breakdown. So I think this is where we get this sort of feeling that, our civilization is on the cusp of anarchy. Because what's the story about? Okay, the Bronx has been annexed because it's broken down into lawlessness. So it's become a no man's land as far as Manhattan's concerned, and the president and the vice president. But what they haven't done, like in Escape from New York, they haven't built a massive wall containing the Bronx. Oh no, you can still just go across the Brooklyn Bridge and you're in there. You can probably drive into it from the other side. I don't know how they do it. But it is a wasteland. And fabulously for this movie, they filmed all the exteriors in the Bronx. Really? So it's genuinely there. It isn't some kind of Italian rip-off, mocked up derelict buildings, a warehouse somewhere, an old disused factory, an old quarry. It is the Bronx. And at this particular time, one of my favourite ever movies, Wolfen. Somewhere above me you'll see a rather abstract canvas artwork for the film Wolfen. Was filmed in the Bronx, the South Bronx in particular. A very genuinely lawless zone where, every man feared to tread. And it had that ghostly wasteland kind of feel to it. Well, this is filmed in the Bronx and it genuinely has that look and feel to it as well. Lots of derelict buildings, but lots of proper roads as well, and people on the streets and stuff taking place. But it is tenement blocks and, lots of piles of rubble and disused buildings and graffiti everywhere. And it's a great environment for this kind of movie, obviously. So what is the plot then? You've got Anne, who's 17 years old, on the cusp of her 18th birthday, and she's going to be heir to the Manhattan Corporation's business, and she'll be the head honcho. She's going to inherit all of this But the Manhattan Corporation are arms dealers, and they're ruthless property developers, and they're really all-round nasty bureaucratic business types who, when things get in their way, they will hire hitmen, assassins, and armies to do their bidding. And life is cheap, you know. If we can't buy you out, we're going to kill you out. In fact, we don't even want to waste time buying you out, we're just going to kill you. So, end of. But she has morality issues with this, understandably, and the opening scenes are her fleeing across the Brooklyn Bridge and going straight into, the Bronx. That no man's land. She obviously took it literally. Well, no man can go in there, but I'm a woman, so I'm going in. Because just want to take responsibility for what's going to happen next with the Manhattan Corporation. So, obviously her father and the vice president, who was actually played by Enzo G Castellari, the director and co-writer. He gives himself a little plum role as the vice president. They arranged, well, if she's in there, got to get her back. So they send in Vic Morrow. Yes. B-movie, western, TV, thriller, action, adventure, horror movie, superstar Vic Morrow. Who, yes, before you all go, oh, Vic Morrow, who sadly died in that helicopter accident whilst filming in Twilight Zone. It's funny how whenever you mention Vic Morrow's name, and I've done it quite a lot on the channel when talking about certain movies, and you go Vic Morrow, in brackets, or hyphen, who's tragically died in that. Even when I'm out talking in the pub, as I do a lot. I do a lot of things in the pub, but I do talk as well. And we talk about movies, amongst other things. And I've heard other people do exactly the same thing. You go, oh, Monster, aka Humanoids from the Deep. Oh, I remember that. It had Vic Morrow in it, didn't it? He tragically died in it. Everyone seems to have to say this. We all know it. The thing is, he's great, and he's great in this. And he plays a really nasty piece of work called Hammer. He's a hitman. So, Vice President and Anne's dad hire this guy to go in there and get her back. But don't go thinking he's Snake Plissken to go in and get the important person. Like Snake Plissken's got to go and get the president. Like this guy's got to go. No. Our Snake Plissken type character is played by Marco Di Gregorio, who plays Trash, the leader of a motorcycle gang called the Riders. And he has hair like this. And he has muscles upon muscles. And he was only 17 years old when he made this movie. 17. He is Italian, of course. And there's two different stories as to how he got the part. He wasn't an actor. He was working in a shoe shop, basically. But he was pumping iron in the gym all the time. Nice and trim, but shoulders were out there. He did go on to make about 10 more movies after this. But we'll come on to all of that anyway. And but one rumour is that when Fulvia Studios, Fulvia Films, who produced this and distributed it, put out the casting call for, obviously a long-haired hunk of a guy to play Trash. And it was like a worldwide casting thing. It was Marco's girlfriend who sent his picture in behind his back, and out of over 2,000 who applied for it, he got the part. Well, that's one version, but Enzo Castellari himself says, nah, that wasn't what it was. I found him in a gym, his favourite gym pumping iron, and I thought, yeah, you're Trash. Oh, sorry, no offence. I want you to play Trash. I don't know about that either, because unless Enzo Castellari was a gym buddy himself, which I don't think is the case, he could only have been in a gym, well, hopefully just looking for people who could be the perfect Trash, and then encountered him that way. I think it's a bit of the two, really. So anyway, he plays Trash, as we've now gathered. His muscles are on show, he's riding his big hog and all that. There's a glowing skull on the front of his motorbike, and he has his huge chapter of biker warriors with him. And they are played mostly by real Hells Angels, which is a real coup for Castellari to get these guys on board. What he did, And you see plenty of these people, and you can tell who they are. You've got actors as well, who are obviously the usual crowd of stuntmen come actors, and the usual Italian family of actors, playing all of his chosen, sub-lieutenants and other various characters who have proper speaking parts. But the rest of the mob, the brigade, the Warriors, the Bronx Warriors, are genuine Hells Angels. Now, they're aware of the time, and Castellari got on great with them. There were some elements of trouble at the end of each day where other elements were not happy with these guys being there. And so Castellari then employed the Hells Angels after shooting had finished to stand guard as security on the locations and the sets that they built and all that. So they were winning twofold. And they lend a genuine believability, credibility to this environment of lawlessness and just roaring around on your hogs through city streets and, just battling all sorts of other gangs, because yes, there's other gangs in this. Anne runs across the bridge. She's almost straight away attacked by these roller skating weirdos who are called the Zombies, who are led by, wait for it, George Eastman. Big 6'9" George Eastman. We've talked about him a lot. Notorious star of Video Nasties, and also the big bad guy in The New Barbarians. And I would say that in his resume, this is the lesser one of his roles. He's not very intimidating, but he plays, what's he called? Gogon, or something like that. And he runs the Zombies, who are these roller skating buffoons. But in a little tunnel, she encounters them, but Trash comes along and Trash saves her. And one of his mates, I think the only scene you've got of like spikes coming out of the air, the wheels of a motorbike, takes down a couple of these guys, these goons who are running away, like, "Aah!" And he slices through their legs, and like they drop to the floor and they're clutching their stumps, and he comes back again and takes the heads off. It's a great little moment, it really is. And he's called Blades, that guy, and he's played by Massimo Vanni. Is it Massimo Vanni? Yeah, Massimo Vanni, who I've discussed a lot in terms of The Last Hunter with David Warbeck and The New Barbarians. He is one of these stuntmen who the directors know that these guys can deliver some lines, and he played Mako in The New Barbarians with a really ridiculous a Mako shark fin Mohican hairdo. But he's actually really good in it as well. I said before, New Barbarians is a naff movie, a really sort of charmless, banal chunk of excess just ripping off Mad Max 2 unceremoniously. But the bad guys actually are quite interesting, and they have a lot to say and a lot to do, so that you focus on them rather than the good guys, who are really rather bland and boring, which is not the case in this movie. Everyone's great in this movie, everybody, and you've got a vast array of characters. I know I'm going all over the show, I know I'm doing that, but that's what you come here for. It's just ribald banter, and we just meander around like we're in the pub. Nice segue there, Kilt-Man. Cheers, y'all. Yes, I'm still on this cheap plonk here. So Trash and the Riders rescue Anne. And Anne seems to like them, and seems to like 17-year-old muscle-bound Trash, quite a lot. And they're living in the Bronx and all of this. They're surviving, but there's other gangs. And you've got the Ogre. And the Ogre is played by Fred Williamson. Yes, Fred Williamson. He's in this as well. Now, he was in The New Barbarians and other of these Italian sleazy exploitation post-apocalyptic blockbusters. And he plays the Ogre. Now, the Ogre is basically the Duke of New York from Escape from New York. Only he's a lot nicer. He rides around, like in Escape from New York, they had the Cadillacs with the jacked up hydraulics, and chandeliers on the hood and all this sort of stuff. And the Duke's men were all kind of weird gypsies, Indians, and you had Frank Doubleday as Ramiro with his fright wig on and all his teeth filed down. Well, the Ogre has all these classic cars and people riding on the 1920s, jalopies and stuff like. But you've got all these men in their fantastic Havana suits and that, like, they're all dressed differently, but there's a lot, they're very, very exotic, riding on the running boards of these vehicles, and they're all hip and cool. And you know right away, because Trash calls for a powwow. Look, we've got this girl, she's from the Manhattan Corporation, the shit's going down, man, you know, whatever's happening. And he's blaming the ogre for attacking this girl, whatever. It was George Eastman, Luigi Montefiore is his real name. It was his mob that attacked her first of all, and Trash saved her from them. But there's going to be open war, so for the various factions and gangs, so he calls for a powwow with the ogre. And this is a great sequence as well, because all the warriors ride up, the Bronx Warriors. I should say at this point that Escape from New York is a big influence, massively. But an even bigger influence is Walter Hill's 1979 classic, The Warriors, because this takes a lot of elements from that as well, and it's a beautiful combination. It's a wonderful cocktail of Carpenter and Walter Hill. The gang structure, the urban wasteland, the colourful, exotic anti-heroes, you've got it all wrapped up in this. And they ride out to the dock side of the Bronx, and I think I'm not massively, although I know America pretty well, I'm actually not that well versed in New York. You think from watching so many movies set in and around New York, Manhattan, the Bronx and all of that, and New Jersey, that you know everything, but I don't know what the bridges are. So anyway, there's a bridge and they're in the lee of that. I've got a feeling it might even be the exact opposite side from where Will Smith in I Am Legend sat and read out his broadcast when he sat with the dog and he tried to find other people, other survivors. I think they've shot this element at the exact opposite other side of the bridge. I could be wrong. New Yorkers are going, oh, you idiots. No. So, but they all ride up and they form what looks like a W when the camera goes overhead. And it's Sergio Salvetti who does the camera work, who worked a lot with Lucio Fulci. And the camera work is brilliant. The imagery and compositions are superb. And they form like a W, or if it's the other way around, it's going to be an M, isn't it? The mothers! But I like it. I like the visual effect of that. And you've got one of their men is on the sort of dock side and he's impaled on this huge wooden spike, face down. Dead. Clearly deaded. But and he had this meeting with the ogre, obviously. But what makes this scene? There's a guy who's already there, just playing the drums. Excuse me. The same riff. And throughout the entire sequence, he's just sitting there on his own. He's not part of either gang. He's just there doing it. It's a very surreal touch. And apparently, when Enzo Castellari went to this location, that guy, for real, was sitting there playing the drums. So they said, okay, let's keep him in, let's use him. You just carry on, we'll film around you, don't worry about us. And he put this body on this spike, and this guy's just playing around. There's no other band members, it's just him on his own. But it's great, it adds a real touch of surreal, anything goes, which this film has a lot of that going for it. Anything goes, a lot going for it. And so they realise, look, yeah, shit's going down, let's have some kind of truce, but, you know, Anna's gonna bring trouble on our heads, you know. So anyway, Trash, you keep your shit out of my trash cans, just stay on your fucking side. And anyway, so they part ways. But you've got into this, you've got Vic Morrow, you've got Hammer coming in. And he's infiltrating, and he will get into the gang headquarters, which is just a derelict building of the Riders, which is Trash's mob. And he'll kill a few of them. He'll make a getaway in a van, which he manages to make an escape from. And it's a great sequence actually, because Trash and his men is mainly tense. Don't worry, I'm going to come on to all these different, elements properly. They go after him and they're either side of the van, but the van, because when you're watching it the first time, you're just thinking, can you see the van going past? It's a great big sort of like one of them armoured car type things. It's coming down this street and they're riding up either side, take him, and but you've seen Hammer, Vic Morrow, get out the back of it, go up leap off the back of it, get up some steps and go on a high level gantry and make his getaway. So you're thinking, is that van? Is that just marauding? It's unmanned, But so they surround it and it just pulls up on the side, on this curb. And you're thinking, oh, that was a bit lucky. But no, there's someone else in that van. Yeah. And it's Christopher Connolly, when they open it up, who plays Hot Dog, who's got a club foot. A hot dog with a club foot. And he's an American star, American actor. But he's been in lots of other Italian exploitation movies as well. A few major actioners. He's an older guy as well, and he's got a combat jacket on, and he's got that big Boris Karloff built-up boot, So he walks with a hobble, and but they know him. What are you doing here, hot dog? What's going on? Oh, I'm just doing this, that, and the other. I've got nothing to do with any of this. But he's working with Hammer, Vic Morrow. So he's working for the man. But is he? Is he really? Because he's got affiliations with the Riders and Trash. Remember, Trash is 17 years old. I mean, he's not playing a 17-year-old, but Mark Gregory is only 17, and he is a commanding presence. You can understand why all these guys who in his biker gang, real Hells Angels as well, but all these other lieutenants and all his comrades in arms, why they'd follow someone like him, even though they're much, much older. They're men, probably some of them middle-aged or more. And but this charismatic central figure with his long, rangy hair, his headband on, his almost tribal American, Native American First Nationer looks, which he would go on to play in a succession of, I think it was 3 Thunder movies, where he played a Native American called Thunder, getting his revenge on the white man for lots of blasphemies, indiscretions, and genocidal verve. And he's great in those. I do want to rewatch them. I haven't seen them for decades, so I'm going to try and get all of them movies as well, because I'm on a bit of a Mark Gregory sort of kick at the moment, because I think he's kind of wowing in this movie, even though he's one note, purely one-dimensional, and he's got some emotional scenes which he has not got the ability to deliver properly, but he has got a screen presence which works, even just riding his hog down the streets with them fucking shoulders out there, and his super trim belly, and the ridiculousness of the stupid hair, which I think is great. There's nothing wrong with having long, stupid, curly rock band hair, because he does look like he's just stepped backstage from a Bon Jovi gig, and because his hair is just fucking everywhere, but he is chiseled and ripped, and riding the bike and issuing orders and legging it around the debris-strewn streets. You try saying that through whiskey, debris-strewn streets, and actually wasn't that hard, was it? Let's try it again after a slug of whiskey. Little Kilt-Man challenge here. What was the line again? Debris-strewn streets. Oh yes, Miss Moneypenny. Debris-strewn streets. Yeah, easy. He looks great, and you do follow him. Although he's a biker, he's muscle bound, and clearly he's at war with these other gangs most of the time, and you probably can't trust him. If you strayed from Manhattan, which apparently is still full of the hoi polloi, the elite are still having their cocktail parties and big luncheons and big business meetings, and you do see shots of it. It hasn't been nuclear blasted. New York City, Manhattan itself is still perfectly, full of lights and life and energy and money. So, and they're just over the bridge, a short hop over, and it's all anarchy. But they wouldn't like him, and he doesn't like them, and he loves the Bronx. All these guys seem to love living in the Bronx, because they've all, in a way, they're all leaders, aren't they? They're all petty little tyrants and despots. They've all got their little corner, their little piece of turf, and they'll fight to preserve it. So anyway, where are we up to? forgotten now. But yeah, so you've got Hot Dog there. Hot Dog is working for Hammer, Hammer's working with the Manhattan Corporation. But you don't really get too much of this. Hammer will kill a couple of Trash's men. In fact, it's a male and female who are making out on some stairs. And this is a bit of a snapshot into like the Trash's gang aren't heroes. That they could be pretty ruthless as well. Because Hammer, who's just a stranger there, who looks just like an older man, a big mustachioed man, and he's got some kind of like, it looks like he's got a roll of carpet over his shoulder. It's a shotgun inside there, folks. And these two are making out, and they see him as he's coming up the stairs, and he goes, "Hey man," flick knife comes out. You know, you don't leave, you're dead. You stay here, you're dead. You try and get away, you're dead. In other words, you know, we're gonna kill you regardless. So his gang aren't that classy or nice, are they? Didn't stop to ask how he is. But anyway, they were probably right, because he just turns around and suddenly, shotgun, boom, blows this guy away, and then blows the girl away as well. So, and then he makes his getaway, which we've seen and or talked about with the van and all that. And there's a big chase through all the rubble. But the gang then, they cremate the bodies of this couple, and I like this because it shows a ritualistic tribal nature, which is actually dead credible and believable. And they all grab a handful of the ashes of this couple, put them into flasks, and then they drive out to that little bit before where I said where the guy was going, who's not there now, curiously. He could have been playing like just a dirge. Dun, 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 dun. And they go out to the front, and in a lovely tracking shot, they all take a handful of the ashes and throw them into, you know, Hudson. And although having said that, they're not actually that close to the water's edge. So although they're chucking it, they're kind of lucky that it doesn't blow back in their faces, because I bet you every single grain of this ash went back into all these people's faces, and probably not the person that threw it in the first place. But the camera manages to keep tracking through them all, so you don't quite see it. So it looks really good, you know. And so there's their ritual. They're saying goodbye to fellow brothers in arms, fellow comrades. So you'll get a bit more sort of stuff back with the Manhattan Corporation. What's his face goes back there, and he meets. Here's a slight riff on Escape from New York. Do you remember when Lee Van Cleef as Police Commissioner Bob Houck, Special Forces Unit Texas Thunder, we had a U2 Pliskin, drives up in that big stretch limo at the start? Well, they've got one of those stretch limos that drives up on, and again, it's another like beachfront, dockside front, not beach. And I think it's, who's just driven back there? I think it's Hot Dog, Christopher Connolly with his big boot, his big special foot boot. And he's with Hammer. He goes, I've got a meeting with the president. So he gets in this limo, and they go back, and it's like, well, we've got to get Anne back, because we're on the eve of her 18th birthday. Everything seems to hinge on her 18th birthday. When she turns of age, she can command the corporation and do whatever she wants. But as she says to Trash, because she goes for a walk, and I just said beaches, and she ends up on the beach. What beach is that? Is it Coney Island? Do you know what? This is where all my geography of New York, Manhattan, and all the environs kind of gets a bit hazy. They end up on a beach anyway. And it could be Coney Island, because that's where the Warriors ends up. They're on Coney Island. It will be Coney Island. Of course it is. What a big hairy doofus I turned out to be. Of course it's Coney Island. And on the beach, and she's sitting there, and like Trash has gone, because they're forming a bit of an attachment, a bit of a relationship, and he's very soft with her, and she really is taken with him. I should say, she is played by Stefania Girolami. Now, she looks much older than Trash does. And in reality, I think in real life, she's 2 years old, only 2 years older than Mark Gregory. But she does look a hell of a lot older than that. Oh, she's still very sexy, don't get me wrong, but you know, and he ain't gonna say no, is he? But they form like, you know, a soul bond. So she's done a runner, and she's gone back through that tunnel where the zombies are, you know, these roller skating dickheads, and they've seen her go down, and they obviously Trash has gone after her, so he goes down this tunnel, and they'll come out, and they put a barricade there, knowing he's got to come back this way, so we're going to trap them. So hey, we know what's going to happen next. But they had this little on the beach sort of discussion of morals and stuff, and he's like, Anne, where are you going? You're not going back, are you? Because maybe I should, because if I stay here, more people will die. We lost so and so and so and so, the ones that Hammer blew away. We lost them, and if I stay here, there'll be more. Begging the question, why did you bother going in the first place? What did you think was going to happen? You know. Anyway, and he said, well, if you're going to go back, what are you going back to? Well, they want me because they can manipulate me, they can coerce me, they need me because I'm heir to the throne, so they can use me, and I don't want to do it. Then don't go. And but more people will die. And he has this little crazy speech about like, we carry death around with us. We smell it, we see it. It's seeped into us. We're already dead, you know. So he's got a bit of a death wish anyway. So great. Well, I'll stick with you then, you know. But which she does, obviously. But they've got to make that return trip. And of course, they get ambushed by these roller skating friggin' weirdos, and he gets netted and then beaten and left there, and she gets abducted and dragged back to Luigi Montefiore's emporium, his realm, his little pocket of the Bronx. And of course, he is Gogol, is it? Golan. And as I always said, George Eastman, Luigi Montefiore, is a very intimidating character. He's a good-looking guy, but because of his imposing height and his intense vigor as a character actor, and as a monster especially, he's always playing some kind of psycho. And in this, he's got a ridiculous hairdo again, and he's just not. He's neither frightening nor intimidating. He's barely interesting, to be honest. He's by far way down the league table of gangs in the Bronx. But they've got Anne, and she's strung up. You know, I've said about there's always a scene in these movies where someone is strung up, and in this case, it's actually Anne who's strung up, not the hero. And all these guys are like, they're doing sort of martial arts training and stuff, like, and they're doing all combat with hockey sticks and things, and they're on their skates and all. Crazy lunatic bloody sort of system. And so Trash has now got to like, look, they've got I've got to get her back, and I've got to go and get allegiances with the ogre, so I've got to infiltrate the ogre's realm and get on his side. But in the meantime, you're getting to know that someone had a tracker on him. Do you remember I said about the guy drumming? Well, not him. But when he first arrived there for the big powwow, and there's a body impaled on the dockside, well, they realised that guy had a tracker on him from the Manhattan Corporation. So someone's infiltrated, you know, and you got someone in here. It's a snake, you know, he's working for the man, and he's not working for any of us. So we can't trust anybody. And it turns out that guy is going to be absolutely Trash's second in command, who's played by an American actor. Let's get this guy. Oh God, where is it? Joshua Sinclair, who struts around in Nazi Second World War regalia. You know, a Nazi officer's jacket with all the insignia, the Death's Head and the SS insignia, loads of stuff like. And he's got sort of floppy hair, and he's got glasses on as well. But he's the one. Every time something happens, well, you're gonna listen to Trash. Look, Trash, we need to go and do this. Let's go and fight the ogre and his men. And all the Hells Angels going, yeah, fight, kill this son of a bitch, you know. So he is the guy that's had the tracker. He's the guy that's set everybody against everybody else. He's working with Hammer. He's also working with Hot Dog, Pegleg, and the Manhattan Corporation to a degree. So he's the real snake in the grass. And you will have a meeting of him and Hammer and what's his name, Hot Dog. And Hot Dog, because Hot Dog knows all this gang really well, but he knows, and his affiliations are still with Trash and the gang, but he's stuck where he is. And at this point, you know he's expendable and he's going to have to go. But even though he knows he's doing the wrong thing, he's going to try and do the right thing. So what he does, he goes, hey, you might need this to go with your outfit. So he gives Ice a Luger, a German Luger, semi-automatic pistol. And so you might need that. Okay, man, yeah. But it's all a setup. So anyway, another Massimo Vanni, who's the stuntman turned actor, well, does both. He plays Blades. He's the one who chopped the legs off and the heads off the skateboard and zombies earlier on. And he's had a fair bit of speaking in this movie, a few ideas to give to Trash. He is loyal to Trash. He's eavesdropped and heard this conversation between Ice and the two bad guys, or ostensibly bad guys. So he knows. So he takes off in pursuit of Ice, and in a curious shot which they kept in, this is a really bizarre thing. Ice realizes he's been followed, so he goes at. They're on their bikes, and you got Blades, who is a stuntman, of course, roaring around all the debris, piles of rubble, and he goes into the entrance to this big disused warehouse. And right behind him is somebody, and it won't be Joshua Sinclair playing Ice on this bit, but it's Ice who's riding up behind in his German fucking greatcoat with all the insignia, comes roaring up and hits something and slams down, bang, like that. Bike and rider, whoa, hit the rubble. And Enzo and Sergio Salvati keep the shot in. They cut straight away to Ice Blades doing a runner throughout the building. But it's like, why have you done that? Because we've just seen the guy that we think is the character of Ice following him. He was just come off his bike. But next thing you know, you're going to see Ice moving stealthily through this building as well, hunting down Blades. But yeah, you should be at least rubbing your arm and shoulder, because your character apparently just fell off your bike. In reality, that rider, whoever it was, and it wouldn't have been Joshua Sinclair, really took a bad impact and broke many bones and spent a fair bit of time in hospital. But they kept the shot in. Isn't it funny how, obviously stuntmen, if the stunt works, they always say, oh, just you go with it if it works. You've even got Tom Cruise in Fallout, where he legs it across the two buildings in London, and as he hits the opposite building, he slams his foot, breaks his ankle really badly, but manages to get up and keeps in the shot, him limping towards the camera. And then when he'd gone past the shot, he collapsed and had to have his foot, his ankle and his shin bone reconstructed and all that. But he said, keep that in the shot. Well, stuntmen are exactly the same. If the stunt looks great, and of course the big one is Mad Max 2, where the guy hits the overturned buggy on his motorbike and hurtles, catapults 75, 85 foot through the air. But he's already hit that vehicle and shattered both legs. And they kept the shot in because it's one of the most alarming and jaw-dropping stunts you're ever going to see, because it's real. And so they kept that shot in. It's just continuity-wise, it doesn't make a great deal of sense. But I like the fact that it's there. And if you do catch it, you go, because it's so sudden and the impact is there. Folks, you never want to land on rocks and rubble. Ooh, so many puncture wounds and hitting pressure points and breaking bones and fractures, and oh god, never good. You want to land on sand, lovely soft sand, be lovely, if you're going to fall. So, but sadly, Blades will be caught by. You've got another gang, and these are pretty much the crazies of Escape from New York. Complete control of the underground. Cannibalistic. And these look like the zombies from Hammer's Plague of the Zombies. They're very pasty-faced. And I think they're wearing sackcloths as well. And inside this building, they will leap around from all the holes in the wall. And there's all dilapidated concrete staircases. And they can all fight and they gang up on people in there. They are literally, like, I don't know what they're called. Are they called ravagers or scavengers or something like that? Can't remember. But isn't it weird that they're not part of the gang called zombies, and yet they look just like zombies? And these will cause a fair bit of mayhem during the final act as well. But they clearly get blades. Ice gets away with it. He's the turncoat, the stake in the grass. Cheers, y'all. So, in the meantime, Hammer has been told, like, look, do what you want. Go in there, get the girl back, kill everybody. Don't give a shit how you do it, just do it. And you've got, it is Enzo Castellari is going like, I don't like him, he's a madman. And it's, oh, what's the guy's name? Ennio Girolami, who plays Samuel Fisher. I think, could be wrong, I think he's the dad of Anne. I think he's her father. Someone's going to correct me on this. He's either the father or he's the president, because the other guy, Enzo, the director, is playing the vice president, and these two are always talking. And he said, I don't like him. He's a, what is it now? He's a mad bastard. And like, yeah. But he's from the Bronx. He just wants to kill everybody, you know, so we could trust him. It kind of like, really? You trust in this guy because he's a mad bastard and he wants to kill everybody? But he's perfect for the job, obviously. So, anyway. He goes in there with helicopters and cavalrymen in riot gear, armed with flamethrowers. This becomes a huge thing with both the Bronx Warriors and its sequel, Escape from the Bronx, which we'll come on to in its own luxurious video. So, but before all that, you've actually got, who is it now? Trash. I remember him, the hero. He and, who was he with? Oh, I can't remember who he's with now. But he will infiltrate, and he's got to go across the wasteland and go through tunnels and come up through ductwork. And, you know, it's filmed brilliantly. And he'll come up in the environment of the ogre. I'll say right now, all the exteriors are filmed in the Bronx, all of them. But because of the way that the Italian film industry worked during this particular time, you had to film a certain percentage back in Italy. You had to do it for insurance and union rules and regulations. So all of the interiors are filmed on sets in Cinecittà in Rome, or just outside of Rome. And they're seamless. So you've got shots of Trash, and I forget who it is who's doing the infiltrating with him as well. I can't remember now. Oh my God, that's terrible, isn't it? It must be Chris Connolly. It must be Hot Dog who's doing it as well. Again, I can't remember. It's all chaotic, good fun. But you'll see them in broad daylight in the Bronx, and they'll go through take this manhole cover up, climb down. The next cut, they're actually in Rome. They're actually in Cinecittà doing those shots inside. But it's seamless. So again, you have them coming out of these things into broad Bronx daylight, but it's genuinely seamless, and it really, really works superbly well. And you get, even though it's all seemingly set in debris-strewn, dilapidated streets and run-down tenements, there's an epic quality, there's an epic scope, there's lots of different set pieces which look different. Every environment looks a little bit different from the last one. And you've got other gangs as well. Because I've mentioned the zombies, the ogres gang, the riders, and you've got these fucking scavenging type who looks like zombies, pasty faced, probably cannibals, I'm not too sure. But you've got another gang who are called the Iron Men, and these guys, these weird guys, featured during the opening credits of the movie as well, putting metallic face paint on and bowler hats on, and they are tap dancing assassins, a big troop of them, led by a woman called, what's she called? Oh, just Iron Man leader, played by Carla Brate. And these are clearly modelled on the baseball furies from the Warriors, but also the Droogs, Alex and his Droogs from A Clockwork Orange, Stanley Kubrick, Malcolm McDowell. So you've got another influence coming into it, and these will just suddenly, one by one, appear in uniform order from behind these pillars, and you'll get a big fight that takes place with these guys, and they're pretty ruthless, but they tap dance as well, and it's just, what's going on? And yet you're thinking, what? But you're loving it. As daft as it is, it all works in this crazy, chaotic, topsy-turvy, upside-down world. It works. You buy into it, yeah, because everyone can do whatever they want. Do you want to join our gang? Put metallic face paint on, put a bowler hat on, have a walking cane with a spike in it. You know, you can do it. You can join us. But don't forget, you've got to rehearse and train every day. But Trash gets away with this because the Iron Man leader, Carla Brait, she, I like you, Trash, you know, and she's got like a sword cane or something, and she's just going out across his pecs and all this, like, and he's just stood there, you know, his lovely hair resplendently cascading around his manly shoulders, and so don't forget, I'm gonna let you go through this time, but you owe me, Trash, you owe me. Okay, yeah. So off he goes, and that's when he will encounter. There's another skirmish takes place, and shooting stuff happens. Shooting stuff? I just said that. Shooting stuff happens. Hammer has been there as well. Hammer does set somebody else up, and you've got Blades has been captured by the zombie-faced things. Oh, he's spread-eagled. Just remembered, it wasn't just Anne who's been spread-eagled. That sounds terrible. But he's been like that as well, and he's all cut up. I think his intestines are sort of meant to be hanging out as well. He's been sliced about, and Trash will find him and have to put him out of his misery. And Massimo Vanni has a great sort of final moment. You know, Trash, you know, you're gonna do this, and he tells him, Ice has set you up. Ice is the snake in the grass. Ice is the one who's done all this. And like, you know, Trash is like Marco Di Gregorio is going like, the pain of betrayal, and like, you know, and you're my brother, and like, oh, you know, and he breaks his neck to put him out of his slow burn misery and agony. And but you've got Marco Di Gregorio, Mark Gregory, trying to really put some pain and pathos into his face. For the sake of the movie, it works. In reality, it ain't going to win him any awards for his depth of emotion, but he still works as a character, and the acting is spot on for this kind of movie. So I'll stand by him. And so he kills him, and he'll then get captured and dragged before the ogre, and he's going to have to say to the ogre, look, we're being set up. Someone is trying to get all the gangs to fight each other so they can get the girl back, who's not with me anymore, not with you. She's with the bloody zombies. She's with that guy from Anthropophagus Beast and Absurd. Yeah, that big fucking 6'9" bastard. She's with him. We've got to go and get her back from him and save her from those bastards. She turns 18 tomorrow. So it's all going to be done by the time she's 18. So again, you've got a bit of a timeline, a time limit, like Escape from New York-ish. So like the ogre has his second in command is a gorgeous woman who's a dancer, acrobat, actor, and actress and model, and didn't do many movies. In fact, I don't think she did much beyond this at all, movie-wise. She is called the Witch, and she's played by Elisabetta Desi. And yeah, she's uber sexy, and she has like fingernail claws and stuff like. And she's got a sword. Someone's got a sword. I think it's Fred Williamson. The ogre is Fred Williamson again. You've met him already. He of all the Havana-suited wide boys riding on the running boards of these old 1920s jalopies and stuff. So he's like, okay, all right, I'll believe you, but Trash, you set me up. I'm coming for you. And so anyway, they will have to then go on the offensive. And they'll go and attack the zombies and get Anne back. And there's a fight here, of course, which is, it's okay. George Eastman's face gets rammed through a window, I think, and he gets his face all cut up. And and then he'll get sliced and diced by Fred Williamson, because I think those two are really the two opposites of each other. But George Eastman, he's the only disappointment I've got with this movie is him, because I always love to see him, because he's genuinely frightening, and he's anything but frightening in this. So his mob get taken out, his roller skating dudes. Again, the Warriors, the roller skating punks, as they were. That gang was just called the punks. And so it's all riffing on that. And they get Anna back. And yeah, I'm trying to sort out this. There's a lot. It's a very incident-packed movie, and it's hard to work out exactly what bit happens next. But what I will say is, it will culminate in a big finale, right? And it's Anne's birthday. And this is another ludicrous bit, but as if you can just pick one or two ludicrous bits. But she's, wherever they are, whatever dilapidated tenement block, I think it's the ogre's part, and all his men are there, like, and the witch is there, and suddenly they bring out a cake, and the cake has been done like the skyscrapers, the skyline of New York City, and it's all lit up as well. And you've got Hell's Angels and other people who were playing the extras, who are all singing "Happy Birthday to You," and everyone's going. They're all like, it's big cheesy grins, and you're like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Are you for real?" But the thing about it is, she's 18 now, so right shit, time's up. They need her when she hits 18, so they've good yet bad guys. I've actually got her, so she's safe. Haha! Remember I said about Hammer being sent in with his death squads, his horse-mounted flamethrower units? Well, they suddenly arrive. Helicopters and guys with grappling hooks scrambling up the sides of buildings, and they invade. And suddenly you've got a battle royale taking place in this dilapidated, bloody ruined building. People are getting flambéed in the face. There's a lot of shots of the camera is behind the actor or stuntman's face as the flames engulf them right in the face. You know, they go. Ugh. Don't go thinking a lot of gore. It's not like that, but it's still kind of oof. It's very in your face. And so the battle happens. The witch and the ogre are using their martial arts weapons, and she's taking people. She's really good actually, taking people down. They're dragging people off horses, you know, and fucking. She's got she has a whip. That's right, she has a whip. That's her weapon, and she's like whoosh, grabbing these Gestapo jackbooted bastards off their horses. Whoa! It's also very dodgy using flamethrowers whilst you've got live animals. I mean, people are okay. I don't mind that. That's fine. I've been to many barbecues. It's all right. But they've got these people are on top of horses, and they'll turn the horse's head and then fire up the flamethrower. And horses are really well behaved and not getting skittish. And of course, there's people leaping around and people getting pulled off the horses being tumbled as well. I think Fred Williamson uses a samurai sword and takes out the legs of a horse and then gets the guy on top of it, like. And he will have a battle with the Hammer, but sadly he will come off the worst and he'll end up. Fred Williamson is known for his cigars, and he had a special type of cigar. They were kind of like custom made for him, and the whole place is ablaze. And of course, he's the ogre, but he was also like the Duke of New York. So he had a throne and all his acolytes in there, and everyone's dying and dead around him, like so. And he just sits on his throne. I don't think he even get his arse on the seat. I think he's on the steps leading up to it and lights up a cigar. But you see all the flames around him, and so he's going to be incinerated anyway. And the witch gets taken out as well. In the meantime, our boy has encountered his old former mate, Ice, Joshua Sinclair, and they have a bit of a battle royale as well. And it's pretty decent. It's only brief, but they're swinging stuff around. There's big steel bars being used, and a bit of a kick and a roll over, and then a boot, and Ice ends up flying. There's whose weapon is it? I think the dagger. It's like a long sort of telescopic. It ejects the spike out of it. I think that is actually from the ogre. I think it certainly isn't Trash. Is sure it isn't, because Trash uses guns and his fists, and but this spike, this weapon, is on the deck, and he manages to boot Ice through the hole in the ceiling above, and he lands on this. Oh, I forgot to mention, Ice has killed Hot Dog, you know, one with the peg leg, the big party boot, and because he gave Ice that Luger, and they confront each other just before this big fight, and he just goes, ha 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 ha, you gave me this, remember? Well, now you die. Bang! And he fires a shot. Now it's kind of confusing because Hot Dog just stands there and goes, is that all you got? And Ice just goes, looks at the gun. But there should be a line to explain blanks. It's left, you know, Castellari leaves it up to you to work it out, but clearly it's a blank. He hasn't shot through and Hot Dog can survive it, because he's sort of, is that all you got? What else you got in your bag there? Whatever his line is. And Ice just goes, ha ha ha, throws the gun away. And remember Rosa Klebb from Russia with Love, with the spike in her shoe, the toe spike. He's got one of those, whoosh, like that. The spike comes like this, ha ha, and fucking boots him right in the gut, and he goes, oh! This is what I love about Italian movies. They play about with what you think's going to happen. Hot Dog just upstaged Ice. Ha ha ha. What are you going to do now, motherfucker? You know, and he's like, and you think that's going to be the comeuppance of Ice. But no, Ice just goes, no, got this. Booze! And then the guy who had the upper hand, oh! And he's dead. That's Hot Dog. Hot Dog got filleted, you know? And but then, of course, poetically, I suppose, Ice ends up on the big spike, and he's done in as well. So now you've got well, pretty much Trash is taking out these Gestapo jackbooted motherfuckers left, right, and centre. But again, you've got these holes in the ceiling, and Vic Morrow has been stood in one of these in his leather battle gear. Like, it doesn't look anywhere near as stupid as the things do in New Barbarians. It's a very sort of Germanic, Teutonic, Nazi-inspired sort of attire, and he's got like a flat cap on as well, and he's got a flamethrower, and anyway, what's he got? He's got one of the grappling hooks. Trash, because he's just there, and this is Vic Morrow, hammer. He's as people are getting killed left, right, and center. He's just pure mustachio twirling villain. Oh, you're on fire. Oh, you're on fire too. Oh, how I love this. And Trash manages to get this grappling gun, fire it right through him as well, and then fuck off. And down he goes. I should say as well that Anne, the girl this whole story's been all about, she blocks some gunfire from these Nazi bastards, which is bullets heading towards our boy Trash. She gets in the way and she dies. She's dead. So after all that, she's dead. So Trash, fucking hell, what? Done all this for nothing, you know. Just wanted a piece of ass, you know, a bit of Manhattan elite, you know. And but anyway, he fires, so she's dead. All the other jackbooted twats are dead. But he's fired the grappling hook into Vic Morrow, and it yanks him down, and you see him tie it to the back of his bike. Gets on the bike, them shoulders are going whoa like that, filling the frame, and it rides off, dragging the corpse of Vic Morrow behind him. And again, another curious shot. The film ends. You see him drag the body off, and his body's being pulled behind it. And there is a famous still of, you know, Mark Gregory's riding the bike, and the line behind has got the body being dragged, and you can see it in quite good detail. Well, the film then cuts to a final shot, and I think entering the frame on the right hand side, as you look at it, you've got Mark Gregory just comes in and just about on his bike gets into frame, and you think, oh, here's going to be that shot where he's dragging the body down. No, it then stops right there, so you don't even see the the graphic hook line and the body being towed behind it. You just see him just creep into the frame, and then that's it. Unusual editing style. But the editing of the film is actually pretty good throughout most of it, apart from the guy hitting the deck off the bike. But they kept the shot in, but it makes no sense continuity-wise. But otherwise, the film looks fantastic. The widescreen film is beautifully gorgeous to look at. I've just said that, haven't I? Basically, repeating myself, something chronic here. The location shoot of the Bronx is outstanding, even though it's all pretty much shot in probably the same area. And they were warned, a lot of wildlife there, as in people that we don't want to meet. So the film is quite prophetic and quite realistic in that the Bronx was a no-go zone. The South Bronx particularly, it was just full of druggies, gangs, hoodlums holding out there, and stuff taking place which even the police were not going in there because we ain't going to come out. There is a scene where cops in an armoured car do drive into the area, and they get pursued by Trash and his men and sort of driven out. But they are saying, we're not meant to be in here, we're just meant to observe. And Trash and men are going what are they doing here? God, they've got some balls coming in here. Because they know that the cops don't come in, it's not their place. And that was a real reflection of what the Bronx was like, a lawless wasteland. So, far cry from what it is now, because it got, after the week of 9/11, it got massively done up. Isn't that bizarre? John Carpenter's film Escape from New York prefigures elements of 9/11. A plane going into a building and terrorism. Don't get me started on the rabbit hole. Don't get me started on that. But let's just look at the facts. God, even that's dubious. Did a plane get... No, don't get me started. But the ethos behind it all. The president goes down, terrorism, and planes hit buildings in Manhattan. So you get that. And Wolfen and the Bronx. The Bronx is a derelict area. You don't go in there. The police don't want to go in there. So New York and Escape from New York gets segregated, walled in. It's its own prison city, And in this film, the Bronx is its own city. But the whole thing, it's all linked, and the Bronx then got done up in the wake of 9/11. And the funny thing is, the sequel to this movie, Escape from the Bronx, has an element of doing up the Bronx. But we'll come on to that when I discuss that movie. And but these are films from the early 80s. I mean, Escape from New York was filmed 1980, released 1981, and within about 6 months of the release of Escape from New York, Enzo Castellari starts production on this movie, which is riffing spectacularly on that, and also on the Warriors. And then he would actually do Escape from the Bronx, which is Escape from New York, but it's a different kind of movie though, to be honest. And I love these two films because they do have a great character in Trash, who's, you wouldn't take him home to meet your mum, and he'd arrive, his fucking big hog roaring up outside, big glowing skull, and the skulls glow at night. These skulls, for no real reason, but they do, and you don't even question it. It's just, that's cool, isn't it? And it was fucking long rangy hair, his little skimpy leather vest and all that, and his muscles literally rippled and raging. And he's not the kind of guy that you think's going to be a good guy, and yet he clearly has a heart of gold. Looks after his people, and looks after Anne, and gets revenge for it, and he fights off the man. So once again, big corporations and big commercial institutions are the villains, and politics again play a huge part in it. Although it's subterfuge politics, but it's politics which we built up the Bronx. I say we did. They built up the Bronx, only realising, shit, we're going to have to do something now because we set up the World Trade Center. Again, I'm going down that rabbit hole, aren't I? But this is addressed. The sheer deprivation of the Bronx So we're now going to inject multi-billions into it and do it up, as well as rebuilding Wall Street and, you know, the trade commerce center of New York City. It's funny how Jack the Ripper, where's he going now? Where's Kilt-Man going now? The reign of terror in Whitechapel in the 19th century London, Jack the Ripper's reign of terror put a spotlight on the deprivation and poverty and the lack of safety for women. Okay, they were all streetwalkers, but it didn't matter. It highlighted poverty and the huge gap between the elite and the impoverished. So suddenly, in the wake of that, a lot of changes were made, a lot of social and cultural changes were made to the Whitechapel area in the East End of London. It was built up. Now, you've also got the Long Good Friday. Oh, I'm going all over the show here, aren't I? Which is again gangs, but it's organised crime. Harold Shand. Oh my God, Bob Hoskins. A film I've talked about and reviewed and then re-reviewed and then re-reviewed again many times because I love that movie. The Docklands was, at the time of the film being made, was London's equivalent to the Bronx. It was run down. Anyone was there, you wouldn't want to meet them. They weren't friendly. It was not a nice place to be, but it had so much potential. And the film The Long Good Friday actually essays a guy who's a bank guy who wants to go straight and legit, but do up the Docklands, but using mafia money, obviously. Of course, in the wake of that, and in the wake of many other social upheavals, including riots in the 80s, the Docklands of London were done up and it became Canary Wharf, and a great, huge, illustrious, and highly bankable and very wealthy area of London. So all these places do eventually turn full circle, and it's yet films seem to have predicted it. Do you know what I mean? I did that in a ramshackle fashion there. I hope you followed that. But it just seemed funny how it happens, and the Bronx, just because this seems like a real good example of a place that was dilapidated, run down, and a hell on earth, that became very affluent and a sort of des res place. I'm sure they've renamed it. It ain't called the Bronx now, is it? It'd be called Swallow Falls or something like that. Cedar Trail. So, Mark Gregory, 17 when he made this, and yet struts around like he's Spartacus, like he owns the place. He hasn't got a clue what he's doing. Apparently he was quite difficult to get on with on set. Enzo Castellari says, I got on really well with him, a lot of respect for me, he said, but he didn't get on too well with some of the other actors, and was literally throwing his weight around a little bit. Got to remember, he was plucked from obscurity, and he's only 17 years old, no acting training or experience in the past. And if you watch the film, he has a commanding presence. So you believe all these older folks following him as their leader, not only because he's fucking bigger than them and he's broader than them, but, I mean, much better hair than the rest of them put together. But you can understand why they fall for him. He is charismatic. He is a one-note, not particularly articulate, although of course he's dubbed anyway, but I think he works great, and I love him as a character, and I like the guy himself. Now, the horrible sad thing about Marco Di Gregorio, he turned his back on movies after about 10 movies. He did, there was that Vietnam action around about this time called War Bus. In the wake of Rambo Festival Part 2, War Bus came out, and he was in War Bus 2. He was also in a film called Delta Commando, and he did the Thunder movies as well, a couple of others. And he then abruptly turned his back. Bobby Rhodes, who's also in The Last Hunter, was working with him on, I think it was War Bus 2, and he just turned his back on movies. And Bobby Rhodes was saying, it was immediate. It was just sudden. He just went, I don't want to do this, and he left. As soon as the film was finished, the film was wrapped, he was gone, and people didn't see him again for so long. And he was a painter as well. Marco Di Gregorio. He was a painter, so he went back to doing that, and he fell for a scam. Sorry, Husky's just come in from her walk. So you might see a tail flickering around in a second and hear the slurping of water. And then she refuels and replenishes. And he fell for a scam which took all of his money and took the house from him as well. So then, right, he became a hermit and he moved to some other area of Italy. And sadly, and I think 2000, I forget the year now, but he was only young when he died, and took an overdose, killed himself. And it is a really sad story. Enzo Castellari says that he never maximised on his fame. He used to, apparently during the height of his career, he used to complain about no one ever recognised him on the streets. He went to restaurants or bars, no one ever knew, oh, you're the star of this. Even though these films were quite big successes, certainly in Europe and in America, no one ever recognised him. Well, I find that hard to believe, because he kept that sort of fucking shaggy mane and all that. And he lost the physique, though. He did do that. He did sort of downgrade the physique. And he did it quite alarmingly, because between this film, Bronx Warriors, and the second one, which only came out a good 18 months, or was made a good 18 months afterwards, he'd slimmed down quite a bit, which Castellari was not happy with. He said, you're trash, and trash has got shoulders that fill the screen. For God's sake, what have you done? You're nothing. You're just like that now. You look like Stan Laurel. So in that film, he wears a jacket for a lot of the time to hide the fact that he's lost his muscular jaw. And but I don't care. Long live Marco Di Gregorio, Mark Gregory. I think he's great in this. He really makes this movie. Everyone's good in it, really, apart from George Eastman, who just doesn't have much to work with. It's like they've downgraded him, and Fred Williamson as the ogre he's not quite as ogreish as you think. In fact, he's quite a good guy. Why is anyone fighting? They all kind of get along pretty well, really, at the end of the day. It's just the people from the city, the big city bastards. They're the ones who've got their corrupt, poisonous fingers in the pie. Toxicity. But it works that way. Vic Morrow is great. A sneering mustachio bad guy who has a field day doing this, let's be honest. And who else have we got? Chris Connolly. Yeah, he's alright. Apart from his sad and yet unexpected demise. You know he's going to die. That's the thing. You know he's going to die. But when he gets the upper hand on ice with the blank firing Luger, you think, now you've got a chance to do something there. You're gonna take him down. You're gonna use that big club foot of yours and boot the bollocks off ice. But Ice just knew, no, I've got some crazy footwear as well with a great big jet spike. Whoosh, Rosa Klebb, eat your heart out. Goosh! Poor Chris Connolly's like, oh dear, oh dear. Of course, Mark Gregory could ride motorbikes as well. And he was an avid motorbike rider. So he's there leading the pack of the Hells Angels, going down all these streets, looking uber cool. He'll get, what's her name? Anne on the back of his bike. Anne will also ride a bike, a sort of pink coloured hog as well at some point. So it's just, a lot goes on in this movie. And whereas, for example, The New Barbarians is overtly camp, and unfortunately so, laughably so, and it's action all the way through, but it's boring as hell. This film has a degree of camp to it, but it doesn't feel silly. It feels more believable, more credible, and the action, the fighting is infinitely better. Some of the gory effects, there's not much in the way of gore, don't get me wrong, but Fred Williamson does take one of these pasty-faced zombie characters' heads off, whoosh, and the head will roll between the feet of trash. So you've got some gore, and the gore effects are better than you see in New Barbarians, which came afterwards. And the fight choreography is infinitely better. Trash acquits himself really well. There's lots of body blows and kicks and stuff, and lots of rolling around over rough-looking rubble, and some sword play, and the whip with the witch. It's great. There's so much chaos to this movie, but you've got instantly recognisable, understandable bad guys. You know what they're doing. You've got all of these gangs who are all supposedly bad guys, but they're actually all in a way good guys, doing what they do to survive and banding together. You understand all of them. Everything works really well. The snake in the grass, Joshua Sinclair, Ice, that all works. Is he called Ice? Have I been saying that right the whole time? I have. Joshua Sinclair playing Ice. And he was a screenwriter, and I think he directed movies as well. So all these people in these little 2-bit, exploitation rip-off movies, a lot of these people you see on screen and behind the screen do everything. They act, they do stunts, they direct, they produce, they screenwrite, they do everything, So what a hive of industry Italian exploitation cinema really was. American independent cinema was like that as well. Your George Romero's and even John Carpenter, of course. But there's so many more in the Italian sort of pantheon of lurid exploitation excess, and yet individually, creatively, they're all dynamite. You might not think their films and their product was actually that good, but at least they bloody tried, and they were consistently doing it. So the minute they finished filming this, they're starting on working on another movie, but whilst filming this, they're probably script writing another movie as well, and preparing stunts for another movie as well. It's what a way to be. That's consistent work, a real good work ethic. So anyway, here's to the work ethic. Cheers, y'all. So folks, the Bronx Warriors from 1982. 2 thumbs up. It's great, good fun. Really, really enjoyable movie. It's not like you think, oh God, that's cringe. And even, I said before, there's a couple of cringy moments, but only a couple. And the big happy birthday thing was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. But the fact that it gets interrupted by flamethrower wielding thugs is like, you can't even have this bit of joyous, split serendipity without being torched and flambéed and shot to bits. I think it's great. So, as I say, great movie. Massive, big thumbs up. And we will next be discussing Escape from the Bronx, which some hail as being better than this, some do not. Castellari himself does not think that too highly of his own sequel. And he was offered as well, because both these movies were successful, and he was offered to do a third one, but he went, no. He had other ideas, and they also apparently were then going to slash the budget of the third movie anyway, so he went, I can't do it. So the third Bronx Warriors movie never actually happened. So it's often referred to as the Bronx Warrior trilogy, with Bronx Warriors, Escape from the Bronx, and then they lash in the New Barbarians, which really has nothing to do with this at all. Nothing. So, but it's just, let's get all Castellari's films together. So, but you're getting 2 good ones, and you're getting New Barbarians as well. It's got its fans, folks. It has. But as I say, it's more fun to talk about it over a few beers or whiskies than to actually sit and watch the damn thing. Which you can't say about the 2 Bronx Warriors movies, which are great, good entertainment. Thunderously good. And at some point, if I can get hold of those Thunder movies, which I don't think that, I've not got them. I thought I did have them on VHS or Betamax, which would be no good because I couldn't watch them in it. I haven't got any machines to play it. But I've still got tons of VHS and Betamax cassettes. But I've not got them on any kind of digital format. So, I'd love them. If anyone knows where you can get hold of the Thunder movies, please let me know. Yeah, I think 1 or 2 might be on Prime, Amazon Prime. But I hate watching films like that, streaming it and then reviewing it. I like to review a film that I own a copy of the movie. So I can really go to town and I feel like I own it. I've got an invested interest in it, You just streaming it, it's like, It's alright for modern movies where you haven't got a clue. I'll just stream this and if it's any good, I'll talk about it. But if it's any good, I'll also buy it on physical media if that chance ever arrives. Which of course now is the big issue. Are films going to come out on physical media? Some are. So many aren't, because they're strapped into these streaming exclusive deals. And Prey, I'm looking at you, Prey. Predator 5 to other people, but although rumours are really good now that is going to come out on a Blu-ray, possibly 4K release. No dates though, no dates still. Damn it! But if you collect movies, you want to have the physical thing. Like I've got these shameless, the yellow sleeve copies, which I think is wonderful. So anyway, back on track. The Bronx Warriors. It's well worth your time and effort. It's well worth backcombing your hair and like going, and putting your skimpiest vest on and thinking that you're trash. I know I'm trash. My wife tells me all the time. You are. You're just trash. You just drink. And talk about movies and then go to the pub and come home. And talk about movies and drink some more. You're just trash. Right, folks, I have been on with Shabby Kilt-Man. Please, in the meantime, as ever, increasingly, excessively, semi-apocalyptically in between time, please keep it Celtic, keep it Celtic. And I am going to see you all. Bring it on. Bring it on. Laters. That was my little notes of people's names. A lot of Italian names were in there. And their alter egos, their anglicised versions of the name. All done for distribution and marketing purposes, of course. And you love that. But you got to try to remember who they are. And yeah, shut up.